Here we have it, folks. There is an official famine now in Gaza. At least that's what IPC says, the UN organization that deals with the sort of the classification for the famine. There's 5 phases, and basically now they've decided they have a criteria. Now they changed once or twice of sort of a criteria, specifically when it comes to Israel, just to be able to declare famine. We talked about it on one of our previous shows. So this shouldn't really come as a surprise, and it shouldn't really be as a shouldn't really be as a surprise as clearly showing that the UN and this specific organization are simply trying to be a political organizations calling for a certain kind of policy they want to see. And again, in this scenario, it means calling for Israel to surrender, calling for Israel to stop defending itself. This is one of the things we'll discuss today. We'll also go to our favorite guy at the UN, Tom Fletcher. For those who do not remember him, well, maybe you'll recognize this title because it's hilarious. He is the Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator. And yes, every UN title needs to have at least 7 words in it to properly make sure people are confused about what they are actually supposed to do. But if you don't recognize him from his title, you might remember him from what he did. He's the guy who was behind the 14,000 babies are going to die in the next 48 hours. I'll also talk a little bit later about that as well. And welcome to the Daily Objective. Today it's just gonna be me, but hopefully I'll be able to get you through what we want to talk about today. So with that, I want to go into. So yeah, basically what has happened is there is this organization, IPC. I don't have the full full title. I didn't save it. Again, another UN organization, another huge title that is impossible to remember, but I'll look it up in a second. We'll watch one video, so I'll look it up then. But yeah, basically there are these sort of different phases of famine or of food security, and basically now they've declared that 641,000 people are in the phase 5, which I've really found interesting, because what also the phase 5 means is there are actually people dying. Basically, every single classification has a certain number of deaths, and the way they do it is deaths per 10,000 that will happen. Now, when it comes to the phase 5, the number is at least 2 people per 10,000 will die. Now, this is not as a whole population, but as specifically people in the phase 5. Now, if you take 640,000 people in this phase and you say 2 per 10,000 are going to be dying, that brings you to at least, and this is at least, 128 people dying every single day. This is supposed to happen, yet we still haven't seen a picture. Not to say that picture would necessarily make it an argument, but we still haven't seen. We've seen everything in when it comes to Bollywood. We've seen everything when it comes to Palestinians, right? We've seen a guy like doing a CPR on a little girl while driving her to a hospital in a van. We've seen supposed pictures of starving people that somehow it's always just one child that is carried by seemingly very well fed adults, and nobody else is starving. It's seemingly always just one child that we later learn has actually some different condition that is the cause of their sort of figure, not malnutrition. So then, of course, as you would expect, the way Israel is responding, specifically the way COGAT is trying to COGAT, I think COGAT is trying to respond, which is the coordination of government activities in the territories. Maybe I shouldn't make fun of long names if Israel is doing the same thing, because I think it has also the full name is Coordination of Government Activities in the Territories, Judea and Samaria and Gaza. But the way they are trying to respond to it is by sort of, trying to do this thing that's called appealing to truth, which the UN, of course, considers a fallacy because trying to appeal to reality, trying to appeal to what is actually happening, well, that's a trick. That's this Jewish trick they are trying to do to confuse us. But we can watch one of the videos that Kogat has posted. So let's see.
آلاف الطرود الغذائية هيتم توزيعها طبعا هنا من وسط مدينة غزة من دير البلح.
نقوم نحن بإعداد وطهي وتجهيز وتوزيع وجبات الطعام الساخنة شمال قطاع غزة.
So again, great video if the truth mattered, if it was a goal to not spread lies, but that's not the goal of the UN. The UN has a goal of, spreading these lies to push an agenda. So IPC stands for the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification. Again, it's an organization that is related to the UN. That is, it's always hard to find how all the organizations are related to the UN, but basically it does work under UN. And their job is basically to, in the areas they are controlling, to go to either go and see or try to basically make up what is actually happening on the ground. But Israel is trying to defend it by one, showing pictures. There is food in Gaza. By Kogat, publishes, this much aid went into Gaza. This much, this much aid has been dropped into Gaza, has been distributed. All of that. Bonnie in the chat mentions Traveling Israel just came out with a video documenting restaurants in Gaza, and Instagram took it down. Something Kogat also published is a video of sort of Palestinians having food in Gaza, published by Palestinians, since many of them do have access to the internet. We know about many of them because they are publishing their lives and are publishing them having food, having fun, going into restaurants even. But again, that doesn't matter. And Israel is still trying to play this truth game. This is not the goal. Famine has been, according to the IPC, famine, is it IPC or yes, yes, I believe it's IPC. IPC, the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, has been actually saying that famine is getting worse and worse. The more aid is going in, the worse it actually gets. This is ridiculous. They are trying to lie, or what they are trying to do is, again, use Hamas numbers, use what Hamas says, and make all the data from that. That's why it doesn't make sense, right? 130 people should be dying every single day in Gaza from starvation, not from not Hamas soldiers getting killed by Israel, not some casualties unfortunately happening, not people getting killed by Hamas. No, from starvation. 130 people should be dying from starvation every single day, at the very least, according to IPC, according to their own numbers. Yet we are not seeing a single thing. Nobody stops to ask why. Why is this happening? And again, Israel is trying to play this game of, maybe we can convince them. Maybe the people that are trying to lie, that want to see us wipe out, that want to see Israel gone, maybe if we appeal to their sense of truth, we will achieve something. Absolutely not. Israel has to realize the only way to actually move forward is to stop agreeing to their standards. The only goal Israel should have is to simply end this as soon as possible. This should have been the goal from the start. By accepting their standard, by accepting that you have to deliver humanitarian aid. Again, just remember, there were times when there was an actual blockade coming from Israel, right? That Israel imposed a blockade on Gaza and nothing was going in, and the hatred of Israel was lower back then than it is right now. So again, it doesn't matter what Israel tries to do. What the international community sees is a weakness, right? If Israel lets food in, if Israel tries to play the game, they know, okay, we can actually play to that. We Israel is actually compromising. We can use that compromise to push towards what we actually want, meaning a complete surrender of Israel. I want to go to Tom Fletcher, but I'm just trying to see if there are interesting things in the chat. All right, let's listen to Tom Fletcher. Now, this video is, I think, only like 1.5 minute long, but he says so many things that I had to write down almost every single sentence, and I'll play the whole thing, and then we'll go through it one by one. Yeah, make sure to listen. So let's see.
It is a famine on all of our watch. Everyone owns this. The Gaza famine is the world's famine. It is a famine that asks, but what did you do? A famine that will and must haunt us all. Please read the IPC report, cover to cover. Read it in sorrow and in anger, not as words and numbers, but as names and lives. Be in no doubt that this is irrefutable testimony. It is a famine, the Gaza famine. It is a famine that we could have prevented if we had been allowed. Yet food stacks up at borders because of systematic obstruction by Israel. It is a famine within a few hundred meters of food in a fertile land. It is a famine in 2025, a 21st century famine, watched over by drones and the most advanced military technology in history. It is a famine that must spur the world to more urgent action, that must shame the world to do better. It is a famine that therefore also asks, and what now will you do?
Thank you very much.
All right, so this was Tom Fletcher. Let's before we go cover all the BS he said, let's cover again the lies he did. So, well, first I should mention, some people complain that we don't talk about the United Kingdom enough. So I would like to formally thank Keir Starmer for getting this guy in this position, because he actually he got in this position, I think, in 2024, I think maybe October, if I remember correctly, and he was nominated by Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of United Kingdom. So yeah, thanks for that. He used to be, I think before that, he was like an ambassador to Lebanon or something like that. But yeah, so he spread the lie of 14,000 children. Basically, it was completely fake. He didn't make it up. He said he read it in some report, but it was crazy thing. He basically just posted on X that 14,000 children are going to die in the next 48 hours. Now, this was, as I said he read it somewhere, but it wasn't true. It wasn't confirmed. Nothing, of course, happened, and people just ran with it. And he somehow stayed in his position. Like, I'm trying to be careful when it comes to talking about things. When we had the story of, I think it was a spokesman for Kogat, when he said that there were people there were aid workers that were denied access by the Doctors Without Borders at one of the Gaza hospitals. I didn't really want to talk about it, and even when we did talk about it, we only talked about it if it's true, and we talked more about the hospital itself and sort of the narrative around it rather than the claim itself. But why am I bothering? Why am I bothering with actually making sure something did happen when these guys, like actual officials at the UN, can just make shit up and they just get it through and nothing happens to him, right? He didn't get fired. He didn't get reprimanded. Come on, it's the UN. This just happened. So truth is not the goal of these people. He he didn't even think for a second about resigning for spreading something like that. I think when he apologized, well, apologized. When he expressed regret, he said he just had a lack of precision where when he made his claim, but he also maintained the position that Israel is still using food and humanitarian aid as a weapon of war, and calling it a war crime, right? So again, he apologized, but it was mostly like, who cares? I mean, it got the job done, right? People cared. People repeated the lie. I did my thing. And now he's doing the exact same thing. So let's cover what he actually said. So from the start, he talked about famine on all of our watch. This is a world famine, a famine that will and must hunt us all, which I found a little bit interesting because imagine you're like a child or just a normal guy in like Sudan, Haiti, Yemen, Syria, whatever, where there are in some places more, in some places less, famines going on, in some places, just food insecurity, and in some places actual famines. And this guy is like talking about like, oh, this one place where there is more aid going in than whenever. Oh yeah, this is the actual place we have to care for. I mean, I'm not much for calling out hypocrisy, but this is incredible how obvious it is that this is political. This is not about actually, if you cared about famine, you would I mean, of course, you wouldn't ignore any place, but you would focus on the places where it's bad or when something can be done. Something is being done in Gaza. That is already going in. It shouldn't, because again, Palestinians have started this war. They wanted this, and the quickest way to end the war is to threaten with famine. Or if they do choose to have famine, well, this is their choice. We are all for self-determination, are we not? So if they want to choose to not surrender and would rather starve, I think it's our goal should be to give them what they are desiring, right? You should. This is what justice is about. It's giving people what they deserve. If Palestinians would rather starve than give up the hostages, surrender Hamas, change their ways about the hatred of Israel, then this is maybe something they deserve. Continuing, he also said, oh, read the IPC report from cover to cover. Cover to cover is like a weird thing for something that has like 4 pages. Maybe what I've seen, I mean, I checked out the IPC page. It was the #1 report up there. Maybe there is like a longer report, and this was just like a shortened thing, although it did seem to include everything so-called important. And again, it was just 4 pages, and it was projections. It wasn't even like, oh, this is what is going on, because of course they cannot know what is going on. They say it was mostly, well, we are taking these numbers as true, and if true, these are our projections. But again, garbage in, garbage out. If your data is based on lies, on numbers from Hamas, then your output is going to be garbage, right? It doesn't mean anything. And this is exactly what is happening here, because as I said, and this should be remembered, 130 people should be dying every single day in Gaza from famine, not from trauma, not basically like killed by Israel or Hamas, but actually from famine, and we haven't seen anything like it. And also, I've read the report, and I found one interesting thing there that I do want to mention, because the report itself said that it's estimating that 55,500 pregnant and breastfeeding women are suffering from acute malnutrition and require urgent nutrition. Um, which I found interesting, this number. Now, let's assume that even this number includes that every single breastfeeding and pregnant woman is suffering from acute malnutrition. That number seemed a bit high to me. And I looked it up, what is like a general number, and it seems like on average about 1 to 2% of your whole population are usually pregnant women. Now, this number would suggest something more than 3%, or around 3%, or even more than 3% if it's not every single one, which is as far as I'm aware, like unheard of, like this amount of like people being pregnant and breastfeeding, especially when it comes to this being like a war zone, right? You would expect that it might be less. Maybe people won't be as as excited or even capable of trying that, but apparently it uh, hasn't been an issue in Gaza. I think I mean, I've seen somebody saying that the Gaza population increased since October 7th. I haven't looked into that, and it's hard to even say, especially since we do lack some of the access when it comes to information. But it wouldn't surprise me. He also talked about how these read it not as words and numbers, but as names and lives. Again, this is complete appeal to emotion, trying to get you to drop context, trying to get you to drop what is actually going on. Again, this is a war started by the Palestinians, and it should be a war that is ended by Israel as soon and as quickly as possible, with the minimal casualties on its own side, not to try to prevent casualties on the enemy side by sacrificing its own people, but by putting its soldiers in difficult or impossible situations. I mean, recently I've read really sad report about sort of the trauma the IDF soldiers are coming back from the war because of the tough situation they are expected to be in. Because even oftentimes when it comes to sort of even distribution of the aid, the fact that they are supposed to guess if, oh, maybe there are Hamas among the people that are coming in, but you don't know that, and if you fail, then of course the whole world will be after you. If you are an IDF soldier and you try to then travel around the world, people might kill you, people might go after you because you're a Jew that decided that he wants to live. We have a super chat from Bonnie. Thank you so much. Paul says, I was under the impression it's harder to fall pregnant if you're suffering from malnutrition. Well, maybe. Well, again, you're trying to appeal to some sort of truth. You're trying to appeal to some sort of logic, I guess, which doesn't seem to be that much important when it comes to Gaza. He also talked about how this is a irrefutable testimony. It is famine, the Gaza famine. Again, this report is not a testimony. It's a report that is based on Hamas numbers, and that is also projections. It's not even necessarily talking about what's happening. It's talking about what might happen if this is true, and that if is doing very much heavy lifting there. I think he also called this famine that could have been prevented and systematic obstruction by Israel. And I could play into it, right? It could have been prevented if Palestinians surrender. It can be prevented. But again, these people do not really care about Palestinians themselves. This is just a way to fight against Israel. Again, what does the Palestinian culture represent, other than wanting to have a population that will be fighting with Israel forever? Again, the surrounding Arab states don't like Palestinians. The international world don't like Palestinians. but they do hate Israelis and they do hate Jews. And this is giving them a pretty good opportunity to do so. They wouldn't want to rule over Palestinians. Egypt doesn't want back Gaza. Jordan is not too happy about their Palestinian population, but it does give those, if they are somewhere else and fighting the Jews, well, they might go for that. With that, I think we've covered this topic enough. I'm just trying to scan the chat to see if anybody has anything interesting to add. But it doesn't seem that much. So we have a super chat from Bonnie. I'm not sure if I read it, so if I did, you have a second thank you. There will be no reality show today, so just one show today. But next week we should be a bit more active when it comes to covering this, and we'll also, of course, be back tomorrow with another episode of the Daily Objective. And on Sunday we'll be also back with another episode of the Sunday Spark. So, which reminds me about the Irreplaceable Spark Conference. The conference Ayn Rand Center UK is organizing later this year, October 25th and 26th. It's going to be much more positive than what we all often talk about here. It will be about successful people in the real world and them sharing how they were able to achieve that, how much objectivism played a part in this in their achievement. And with that, check out objectivism.co.uk. You can get your tickets there. And I would mention the Sunday Spark again, because last week we had Michael Kaufman on. You might have seen him on this channel, but you might not know how successful he is in the real life. So make sure to check out that interview. And if you'd be interested in hearing more from him, he will be at the conference. So thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll be back tomorrow. And until then, bye-bye.